always had a knack and a passion for marketing and obviously talking, public relations. And so that came naturally. I think it's something that the owners, Christine and Eric, saw and gave me the opportunity to kind of dwindle into it a little bit. And so over time, got to be more exposed into marketing and networking and public relations for the company. And it's just been pretty awesome. My day is never the same, which is so exciting. Some people say, how do you do it all? I was like, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I come in and every day is a new challenge, a new task, and I love just, it keeps me on my toes.
That's great. That's great. Two things. One, sometimes we think that you must be an owner to be a leader. And what I've seen over the last few weeks, really, because you have two young ladies in our current class, which you're the graduate assistant for, I've seen how they look up to you. And it really tells me how many different levels there are of leadership. And the other thought is, you mentioned two names in your ownership. Who are those individuals and how did you meet them?
Oh boy. Well, they mean a lot to me. So Eric and Christine Worthman, they are the current owners of Comfort Temp Heating and Air and CT Mechanical. And they are just absolutely two of the most amazing humans I know. We'll start there. I came from corporate America. I used to work for a very large international institution, and I was employee E, number. And my husband actually started working at Comfort Temp during the summer as a summer job to raise some money to buy me a ring while he was in college. And he just really loved it. They saw potential in him and brought him in from the field into the office and kind of started working on developing and investing into him. And I saw that. I saw the impact it had on his life. I mean, he would come home and he'd just be, you know, they did this for us, and today they brought a food truck, and I just got a Yeti cup, and they, you know, there was just so many things that they were doing, and I'm here like, I work for like a multi-billion-dollar company, and I never get any of this stuff, you know? And so I would just hear about how wonderful they were and everything they're doing, and I just had in myself like almost like a jealousy, like, man, I want to work here, you know? But at that time, I never even saw it possible, like something that would happen. And ironically, they used to participate in this fishing tournament, and my husband takes it very seriously. He's like hardcore fisherman, so he's like, you can't be on my boat. You know, only real fishermen on my boat. So you're going to be on the Worthman boat, right? And so I got stuck on a boat of someone I didn't even know. I mean, the owners of all people, and I had never really met them, but got to meet them that day, and I was just like the most down to earth, and you Eric's been in the class, so you know, just the most chill people ever. And I was like, man, I really want to work for them. So we started talking, and unknowingly, it was almost like an interview. You know, like, hey, we have this problem. How do you guys handle this? And blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And, you know, I did mention, I kind of sold myself there. Like, if you ever are looking for someone in human resources, I would love to be part of it. And immediately, they didn't have a need, but shortly, a few months after, they did, and we made the change.
Wow, that's amazing. And now added public relations and marketing to the HR.
Yeah.
Does like Eric hire somebody to make sure you get around town okay, and you know, to walk you across streets? Because that's a huge role that you have. I mean, he's got to protect his asset there, you know?
Yeah. My husband is my bodyguard, luckily. So, and we're both employed by them. So, already on payroll. But no, I just, ever since I started working there, I've just always been very empowered by them. They've really believed in myself and my husband, and it's just giving me such a desire to want to go above and beyond and do whatever I can to represent them well and represent the company well and bring them growth and prosperity. So, yeah, absolutely look up to them and would do anything for them.
Yes.
So.
And we're talking about a class every once in a while. It's a Dale Carnegie class, Skills for Success. It's an 8-week program that we put on here in Gainesville, in Jacksonville, Lake City, Valdosta. We have one going in Tifton now, Douglas, Georgia, Live Oak, Florida. We've done them in Cross City, St. Augustine, all over the region. So and you've been a big part of that over the last 18, 19 weeks of when you went through the program. which is a lot of fun. And yes, Eric did go through, and now it kind of tells me that Christine, we have somebody else that needs to go through too, right? The other,
yes, she's mentally preparing herself for it.
Is she? Have you talked to her about it?
I have.
That's great. That would be fun to have that because, husband and wife, you and Austin, your husband, wonderful gentleman. You went through the program together, and it would be nice. I really admire Eric because he didn't need to do that. He put himself out first before he offered that to the rest of the staff or encouraged them. That was a cool thing to do.
I have to share a funny story about that. So, we saw the change. We had no idea what was happening, okay? We didn't know he was enrolled in the Dale Carnegie course, but we just kept seeing this change, and he kept bringing these like motivational and inspirational stories to us at our managers' meetings, and we're just all kind of like, what is happening? Where is this coming from? And it was so funny because we got to see the flip side, the effect that the class actually had on him. And obviously, he saw the change in himself. We experienced the change in him, and he really believed in it and saw the value of it. And so going into it myself, a lot of people labeled it as just a public speaking class. That is not what it is, and it's so much more than that. I could honestly say, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, to kind of puff you up or anything like that, but you are a great instructor, and you just create such a vulnerable and welcoming environment where walls are broken and we are stretched, further than we ever even thought imaginable. And it truly changed my husband and I's life. And we are hardcore Dale Carnegie fans forever. So,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. One of our standard lines is when people talk about it being a public speaking class is just that I can't think of a better way. It's not.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to become a better public speaker. We actually have a public speaking class, which is our high impact presentations. Yet the Dale Carnegie class was built from the standpoint if people could get on their feet and really share their story, that it would build their courage. And that's how it kind of came into everything that it is. It's an incredible, like when we had, I forgot who read I think Josh Howard from Meldon Law read what the highest award of achievement, and it's been given out since 1912. Think about that. There's been that winner in that class since 1912. But we're not here to just talk about Dale Carnegie. We're here to learn more about leadership from your standpoint. You immigrated to America when and from where?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Havana, Cuba, just 90 miles south of Florida here, of the Keys. And I actually didn't make it over to the States till I was 6 years old. And it was my mother, my brother, and I who moved over first. It was a crazy process to get over here, but this is where our family was, and we were escaping, a harsh place, to keep it simply, labeled. And a few months later, my father was able to be reunited with us.
Awesome.
But it was left everything behind, family, jobs, security. But we were seeking the American dream and the American freedom. So.
Wow, the American dream. I wasn't going to go there yet. Let's go there. What is your journey after you got out of school? What is your journey towards that American dream been like? Where have you been? What roles did you have? And how did you elevate yourself to the position that you have now?
Yeah. Well, I think in order to share that, I have to sort of go back a little bit.
Okay.
Because I don't think I would be able to be where I am without my parents and without their example. So came to a brand new country. My mom was a lawyer. My dad was an economist in Cuba. And they knew no English, obviously. And I saw them work 3-4 jobs. I saw the struggle that they had to go through. And I saw their whole evolution and dedication and determination and hard work to where they're successful business owners today. And I was able to be old enough to witness and see what it took. And I think that a part of me has always said, they've sacrificed so much, they've given so much to get me here. I can't just let it be a waste. I have to thrive. I have to excel. I have to reach the American dream, right? And so that's always been a driver for me, is obviously make them proud and make their sacrifice worth it. And so, yeah, ever from academics, which wasn't very easy for me at the beginning, there's a lot of struggles there, all the way to graduating high school. I mean, I always just pushed myself to be the best, to work hard. I was never the smartest, but I sure worked the hardest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I see that
participated
in
in everything and anything I could, and was fortunate enough to have an academic scholarship to the University of Florida. And I was the first person in my family to graduate with a college degree. It was tough at times because I was the first in my family. I was the older sibling. So, we didn't know what teacher work days were. And my dad would drive me to school and we show up and nobody was there. And we didn't know how to apply for, scholarships or how to do this or, so I had to kind of self-teach myself a lot of things, which gave me a lot of maturity at an early age and a lot of independence and just made me become who I am today. But out of college, I've always been very determined. I'm not going to lie. I went into UF and I was on a neurosurgeon track. Okay, I wanted to be the next brain surgeon, and I realized I kind of had a pivotal moment in my life my sophomore year. A lot of things had happened and a lot of humbling happened, emotionally, physically, always of life. But I realized that I was just doing this simply because I was trying to attain the hardest thing I could possibly think. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing what I was truly passionate about or what I loved to do. Mm-hmm. And I kind of made a decision to pursue the business route from there, and went all the way to getting my MBA, my husband and I, because we love business. I've always been attracted to it.
So both of you have your MBA?
Yes. Always been attracted to it. Always been in it with my parents, helping them run their business. It was something that I didn't realize I enjoyed so much. Wow. And after that, like I said, I went to work for a large, I'll remain nameless, but a large corporation. Right out of college, it started off as just an internship, and they hired me on, and I was on their management track, and pretty much being promoted on a 6-month average, time to the next level and the next level. So that was going great. And then I went to Comfort Temp. And so I've really not had the longest career-wise. I've just started an internship, grew there, and then I'm working here where I hope to work for the rest of my life. So
that is cool.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, before we were on live, Soly and I were chatting back and forth about our background. She said, well, you're going to have to be careful because if I talk about some things, I might get emotional. Just as you were telling that story, I mean, I'm holding back tears. So I mean, I've known you now for a little over a year, and I know you so much more in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That is like incredible. It's incredible. What is your parents' company?
Yeah. So if they watch this, they're gonna laugh at me. They have multiple companies.
Okay.
They have legal services, merchants, like different types, but their main passion right now, and something that they've actually been wanting to do for a long time. We have several family members who have autism in our family, and that's been a huge struggle and learning curve for us. And they've always wanted to be in that industry, and so they actually have a foundation as well as several academic centers for autistic kids and adults. And so they work a lot in homes with families, with behavioral therapists, but they also have after school and summer programs to get the kids effective training and development, essentially. And for the adults now, which is the new thing they're doing, things such as how to become more independent as themselves as adults, balancing checkbooks, doing groceries, social skills. And so they're really doing their passion project right now. And it's amazing to see everything they're doing. They have 5 centers now throughout South Florida.
What is the company?
It's Awesome Foundation is the
Awesome
Foundation.
Awesome Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then MG Home Care is the umbrella of where the centers come from. So yeah, it's pretty. Wow. Horizon Academy is the actual name of the academies that are around downtown.
And they're predominantly in South Florida now?
Yeah. They have a place in Homestead, somewhere else like Cape something, and then a couple in Miami, Doral. So they're kind of like
Do they
scattered
oversee
around.
each one themselves, or are they like a franchise that is?
They're not a franchise. They do oversee all of them themselves. It's a family affair. So we have, aunts and uncles and my brother and his wife. It's like a family affair. And so they all work and my dad is the one doing the renovations on these places when he buys them. He is very hands-on. They're both so involved. And I always tell him, you guys got to pump
Slow
the
it down.
brakes.
Yeah.
Take, step back.
Do they have dreams of expanding throughout the state or
Oh,
throughout
yeah.
the country? Or
My parents came here because they're dreamers, right?
right? Yeah.
So the answer to that is, of course. They are, my parents are both just, they're dreamers. They're like, this is a dream and we're going to make it happen and this is how we're going to make it happen. They've never limited themselves to what they can achieve.
This podcast was built because I had this idea that leadership wasn't just Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Elon Musk, although I loved listening to them. Mm-hmm. Leadership was the person, the family that lived down the street, the person that was your neighbor, that impacted people's lives. Soly Schrack, an extremely great example of that. You and your family and the humbleness that goes with that is just amazing to me. I'm just floored by that, and I can't wait to hear more. We're coming to you live. We're here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, which you've been here to eat.
Yes,
love
so
the food.
Good. Yes.
Have you been to Visors yet?
I have.
What was that experience like?
It's like the same good quality food, but just in a more relaxed atmosphere. The quality's there. It's just kind of if you want something more formal or you want something more relaxed, but highly recommend both, either.
And then we're inside this podcast room. It was kind of funny. I was on a Zoom call, and the gentleman that owns Apex, or the CEO of Apex, I should say, is a Florida graduate, and he's like, "Where are you?"
Beautiful museum.
Coach's room,
Yep,
man.
Yep, yep.
And then Celebration Point, Svein Dirkelbatten, one of our good friends and people that we absolutely love, and his entire group here. This is just a phenomenal place to be, and so fortunate to have this in this region. It's incredible. Yeah. Back to what you do. How would you describe your leadership style?
Oh, evolving. I think that I used to think that leadership was carrying the grunt, working the longest, doing the most. So that, lead by example. And there's definitely something to that. A leader doesn't just lay back and not do anything. You got to set the example. You got to set the tone, the expectation. Correct. But as I've been in a leadership role, through experience and through a lot of trial and error. So much error. Oh my goodness. I've realized that a lot of leadership is impacting people, empowering and encouraging them, and equipping them to be kind of their best selves, making them. This is something that everyone always challenged with, is people have a hard time training people underneath them. They want to train them on just enough things, but not everything, because they're afraid or job security or whatever it might be.
So honest.
And they're missing out. They're shortchanging them. It's like train them on everything and more that you can do. You want them to be not just capable of what you're doing, but so much more, And I just think shifting from let me be this way to what can I do to empower others to be the best selves and the most effective has been really transformational in my leadership. That I would say has been my biggest learn is don't try to do it yourself.
Encourage others.
Encourage others to do it. Give them the resources they need to do them.
And empower them.
And then empower them to do it and let them take off.
Yeah, that is. How many employees at Comfort Temp?
About 200. Yeah.
You mentioned Comfort Temp and
CT Mechanical.
What is that?
Yeah. So it started off, Comfort Temp Heating and Air is our residential side of the business.
Okay.
It also hosts our service department and our indoor air quality department. And CT Mechanical was really Eric's baby. That was his passion project. It's a full service mechanical and plumbing contractor. So their sole focus is really new construction, commercial, industrial. So things like Celebration Point or Butler Plaza,
Those.
large places. Yeah.
Do you work with the contractor? How does when you're building a big project like this, how do you get involved? How does Comfort Temp and CT Mechanical get it? How do they get involved?
So for a large project like this, as Spurrier's, for example, it would be the general contractor is obviously the head person on it, and there's a bidding process for all of the vendors essentially, or the subcontractors, which would be one where the mechanical and plumbing, then there's the electrical, the carpenter, so on and so forth. And everyone submits their bids, and it's their job to kind of build the best combination to submit over to, the owners or the clients, and hopefully we get chosen. But if we get chosen, we now have our own sets of vendors and subcontractors like insulators and controls and startups. And so
there's so many layers.
We work for them, but then we have a set of people that work for us, and it's such a group effort. I mean, all the trades have to work together. We have to try to not get in each other's ways to meet the deadline, and then there's material shortage and people out, and it's been a huge obstacle that we've all had to navigate together in the last couple of years, more abruptly than before, that maybe a little smoother, but yeah, we work for usually a general contractor, sometimes an owner directly.
A couple of different things. You've been in the class with one employee who happened to be your husband.
Yes.
Which is probably one of those which probably throws some challenges once in a while. Now you're a graduate assistant and you have 2 employees in there. What are those dynamics like as a leader? What goes on in your mind? Do you think to yourself, I've got to be this, or I've got to do this, or are you able to just let go and be you?
Yeah, I think we're lucky enough to have an organization that provides such like a welcoming and casual atmosphere that we're always really just allowed to be ourselves. That's never been an added pressure. I think going through the class with my husband was definitely amazing and life-changing for us. But being able to see people who I admire and look up to and work to on a daily basis take that same journey, and from the back of the class just watch their growth week to week to week. I mean, there's almost a sense of like a proud mom,
Yes.
I'm just kind of
I've watched you when I've tried to watch you when both Jackie Bachman and Haley Howe, when they get up and give a talk, I try to peek at you to see you.
I'm usually like,
and you're like just beaming when it's amazing.
I'm just so proud and excited. They've really been vulnerable and allowed the process to do its work, and that's all you can ask, and so I get to see them brag about it and everything at work and tell others about it, and so that the money is well invested, and the other cool thing about it is that now we can all hold each other accountable to it, because it's great to do good when it's fresh in mind, but as struggles and hurdles and things come in, sometimes it's easy to forget, and so keeping it top of mind and hey, do not criticize, condemn. And so just yesterday, I was saying something, and Jackie's looking at me, and I'm like, criticize, and I'm tapping myself. But it's just good to be held accountable. So now we have 4 of us that can kind of be like, hey,
Eric, and that's one of the things that I always encourage, especially to CEOs. And I've talked to Evan about that before. Evan Miller, our producer here, who works for Freddie Wiebe, who's a graduate of the program, and we've got to, even as CEOs of our companies, we've got to be vulnerable to the people that we've invested in to take that Dale Carnegie class, that they can call us out on some of the ways that we're treating the team. Do it with respect, and as we learn in week 5, you really want to do it in that way. Yet you have to be able to do that, and I think that's a healthy culture to build within the company. Have we created a incredible positive monster in Jackie, though?
Oh, my goodness.
Where did this come from? I even had a student, one of the people in the class pulled me aside on break the other night, Chuck Kamen from the University of Florida. And he said, she's a plant, right?
Yeah.
You planted her in this class.
Yeah.
I
It
said,
was
no.
it was our little plan. No, it's so funny because she already is such a positive and just like strong person. You know, I've had the pleasure of working with her for 2 years now. And I mean, she's a rock star. I always call her, I was like, you are my rock star recruit. I'm like, I'm going to be proud of that one for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
But just seeing her like take it up even further where she's not just exuding it in the office, but now she's like passing it on to others and encouraging others to be that way. It's just been really cool. She's embraced it. We'll say
That day I walked in to meet her, I mean, I didn't think she was going to make it to the class. I mean, she was like, now, Haley was even more a little bit. Jackie's just been such a blessing to be around. It's just been so much fun. That whole class.
Amazing.
Your class was great.
Yeah.
I mean, every class that we have is great. Yet this class just has that it factor. I don't know. We're going to be taking a break here in a couple of minutes, and you're going to be leaving us, which, first of all, we have to reschedule this and have you come back again. I want to spend a whole hour doing this with you. And maybe even if we schedule it correctly, bring Austin and your husband.
Oh, he would love that.
I know. That's right there, fist bump, because we love getting him out of his comfort zone. But I would love to bring him in too.
Yeah.
In like a short 40 seconds, give us your philosophy on leadership and how people can become better leaders.
Yeah. My philosophy on that is always, genuinely put people first. If you care for people, that will just radiate through. That's a genuine thing. And it will help build trust and transparency and care. Care is something that's so like taken out of the business equation, but it's something that's so essential. And so if you stay true to yourself, you empower your people around us, genuinely care to see them evolve and develop and invest into them, it's only going to be a greater reward on your end. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I got to do a little coaching. Not if you.
When you.
Stick to that one.
So when you invest and empower your people, the reward will be greater than you ever thought possible.
Awesome. High five. Thank you, Soly, for being here today. I appreciate so very much and admire you and what you do and how you conduct yourself and carry yourself. And I still think Eric should hire that chauffeur to make sure that you get every place you need to be. Hear that, Eric? Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the podcast room, the coach's podcast room at this incredible restaurant at Celebration Point. This is MotivationU the Podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to MotivationU the Podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors, the rooftop place to watch the Gators, or watch anything, just to come out and enjoy some great food. Inside the coach's podcast room, I was mentioning to Evan that it's kind of cool to have a commercial right before you come back that is the coach himself, which I absolutely love. And you and your staff and your team and whoever does all of the production does such an incredible job on the entire formulating of the things that go on from here. It's just absolutely incredible, Freddie and the team, which really is Philip and Evan and Freddie. We'll do it that way. And then Celebration Point, which is just an amazing facility and growing more and more and more. Just great place to come through. I-75, exit 384, head west, find this place. It's a go-to destination. Farm-to-table food, incredible. The food is just absolutely, and not everything is grown on the farm. Some of it is caught in the ocean, like the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean. Gulf of Mexico, shrimp, it'll tell you when it was caught, where it was caught. Just an absolutely incredible place to be. And the coffee, I always talk about the coffee. Andrew Johnstone always makes sure that I have a cup of coffee in the morning, and the Opus coffee that they serve here is, wow, beautiful. A couple of things about leadership I want to discuss today. First of all, having Soly Schrack on here was just an absolute joy. I wish we had 3 hours to talk to her. Just there's so much of that enthusiasm and joy and just pure energy that comes out of her all the time, which is just incredible. There was a tragedy that happened in Las Vegas. A football player had a total tragedy, very, very bad thing that happened. A young man from the University of Alabama that went to play for the Las Vegas Raiders, and there was alcohol involved and speed and car and an accident, and a young life was lost. And I don't tell that story to harp on that. That's not what my point is. My point is all of the things that had to happen for that incident to take place, and what can we learn from events like that in leadership? And that is really where I'm coming from. The parents of that young girl, she's 23 years old. Her and her dog were lost in that accident. The parents of that young girl, I can't imagine that pain that somebody would go through with that. Yet when you look at what happened in the NFL and what had to happen for that person to be at that place at that time. A few years ago, there was a challenge going on where they wanted to build a new stadium in Oakland, and the people were against it, and there was an argument. They thought about moving the Raiders to Los Angeles again and going back and forth, and were they going to be able to build a stadium, not build a stadium? And it was fought on for years. The Davis family that owns the Raiders and the NFL and the people of Oakland and the state of California, there was just a lot of things going on. While all of that was going on, a family was raising their daughter in Nevada, or wherever they were from. I will say from Nevada. As that kept on going, a young man was going to school in high school and then went on to college and became a college star and was drafted in the first round, the 12th pick. And Las Vegas came into play in the Raiders' future. And they built this billion-dollar stadium. It took a couple of years to build. They opened it up last year during a pandemic. All of the things that went on to get to where they were, to put those people on the same street on November 2nd of 2021. And that's my point. We don't know what happens. As leaders, we have got to create an environment for our team and to understand that there are a lot of other elements. I work with people all the time. I hear stories in class that discuss, different styles of leadership. And yet there are still so many people, and Soly said it at the end of her program, it's about the people. It's about people. It's not about firing people or being mean to people or demanding from people. It's that people have lives. And there may be a lot of people that have viewed this that are lining up to go to work for Comfort Temp because the environment that they create is incredible. I don't want to diminish the fact that a young girl lost her life, but think of all of the things that had to happen to put those two people at that place at that time. And as a leader, when our team has a challenge or work doesn't get done or something happens or somebody doesn't make it to work, don't be so quick to just throw a dart at the problem as if this is the solution because that's how it comes out of your mind. Try to gather all of the facts and see what is actually going on. Be open to the other side of the fence. Have you created an environment where people can be honest with you, where they can tell you exactly what happened, and when they do, you believe them? Because so often, we do that to our children too. They tell us the truth, and then we don't believe them. So the next time, or after a few times, they don't tell us the truth anymore. And what is the environment that you're creating? I read a great quote the other day. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. And that is a leadership idea. If you want to be, and you used to be able to, as a leader, you used to be able to do that. It was the alpha male. I had a long talk. There's a group, the National African American Women's Leadership Institute, NAWLI for short, N-A-A-W-L-I. And I was talking to a lady that is on their board of directors. I think she is the head of the board of directors. She works for CSX out of Atlanta yesterday. And we were talking about this type of thing of creating this environment where people want to be a part of it, where you want to reach out and be a part of that. That's walking together. And her and I discussed that, it used to be an alpha male world as far as leadership. I even shared with her when I first got into radio sales, there were very few women in radio sales. And as we saw that change take place, it was incredible. Don't just look at things from your perspective. Get a lot of different views. There are a lot of elements that go into what happens at any given time. And because of technology today, because of the ability to work remotely, we have that opportunity to stay engaged even when we're not in the office. It's just a challenge. I encourage you just to keep that open mind and to, just to be a little bit different, a little bit challenged, Be open to what your team has to say. Create that environment. If you keep doing what you are currently doing, you'll continue to get what you have. And then the choice is all yours. If you want to make shifts and changes in your world, please do that. I had a friend of mine who's a huge NASCAR fan. And he's a big Chase Elliott fan for NASCAR people out there. Sunday is the championship race. Somebody is going to become the NASCAR champion. And he called me on the phone the other day, and he said, he calls me Mr. Leadership. He said, hey, Mr. Leadership, if you were talking to Chase Elliott's team, what would you tell them? And I was like, just quickly said to him, the difference between raining and past. He goes, what do you mean? Raining. Not like raining the waterfall. Raining as in the reigning champion versus being the past champion. It's all in our mindset. Sunday, you determine, not anybody else, you determine as a team, are you going to continue being the reigning champion by winning again and having another year of being reigning champion? Or immediately Monday morning or Sunday night, do you become the past champion? That's all I would say to him. It's up to you. That's what leadership is. Not what I said, but the way they look at that, what you put into your mind. Many years ago, I read a book called The Psychology of Winning by Dr. Dennis Waitley. An incredible book. You can still probably find the audio version of it. Excellent, excellent. One of the things that gentleman said in that book was the visual of what is really important in your life. At the time, I loved to play golf competitively at the time, and I always finished second or third. I never won the club championship. I hadn't been to the pinnacle yet. I hadn't got to the top. And in that book, it said you must imagine being carried off the 18th green after you win your club championship. And wow, that just stuck with me. And I read it over and just visualize that, see that in your mind. And so I did. And that year I won the club championship by like a ton of strokes over the people that had beat me so badly the years before. And I owe it to that. Later on, when I became involved in Dale Carnegie talked about the mind works in pictures and creating this picture, which is what we did. Which also takes me to something that I had done in a little town in Michigan where my friend was the head football coach of a small high school. Year after year after year, we had gotten beat by crosstown rivals all the time. It was not pretty. Every year we got beat by them. One year we thought we had the team to beat them, and we came up short. And after the game, we were standing on their home field. We were the away team. And their fans and their players and their cheerleaders were all celebrating on the field. And I pulled some of the juniors aside and the sophomores that were on the team of our team. And I sat them down on the field. And we just sat there and I said, look at that. Look at what's going on over there. And they were like, Mr. Bob, what are you doing? Just look at the euphoria. That's you next year. That's us next year on our home field. I want you to put that in your mind. Because as leaders sometimes, we tend to talk about the negative. Hey, see how this feels. I want you to feel that pain. I want to feel that grief. I want you to feel that loss. Get emotional about it. That doesn't always work. We're motivated by one of two things. We're either motivated by the fire that's burning on our back end to get us going, or the carrot that is out there. And we tend to spend a lot of time as leaders talking about the negative side of it, talking about the pain, the virtual fire that is behind us. Yet sometimes that carrot is much more appealing to us. And those kids, I'm not telling you that's why we won the next year, by any means. I did have a few of the kids come back and tell me, we remembered that. We remembered that. So as leaders, let's make sure that we put that positive. And how do you articulate that? How do you draw that picture? It's one thing to say to your team, we're going to be a $10 million company in 2 years. Well, what does that mean to the person just out of college that doesn't know what $1,500 is or has never had $10,000 in their life? And you're going to tell them we're a $10 million company. Can you articulate that in a way as what is the process that's going to get us there? It's kind of like what Soly talked about at the end of her little talk. When you do this, then the benefit is that. Are we able to articulate and draw the picture, paint the picture of what it takes to get to be the type of company that becomes that? That's the leadership side of it. And I'll go back to that. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. It's bringing people in to be a part of that, which is the key. So if you are a company that wants to be one of those, 20, if you want to get to 100 million or whatever your next plateau is that you're looking at, make sure that you're able to articulate that in a way where you put yourself in your team's shoes so they can understand it. Because sometimes throwing out that big goal can be more defeating to people than it is encouraging to people, because they don't see the path that you see. They don't see the road. They don't have the 50 years or 20 years or 30 years of experience that you have in building this, where they can't see that path. It looks like it's like you're trying to go from one mountain to another and there's no road between them. It's just nothing but jump off the cliff and fall. They can't see that path. You must project that to them in a way that gives them the opportunity to see that and to let them know that they can get there. One of the words that Soly used, and we like to use often, is empower. Can you empower your team to be able to see that development in their own life? And are you giving them the tools to be able to do that? Not just the tools as far as the technical development of what their job is. Are you helping them grow as a human, as a person, so that they can take on more responsibility and more stress and more opportunity of communication to a wider range of people? That's an incredible thing. I talking to Evan here, I heard a great talk by Chris Bosh, a former basketball player who had played on the Olympic team with Kobe Bryant. I believe that's where they came together on that. And Chris Bosh was telling the story that they were going to Olympic practice. They were in their compound. All the players had come in. And the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, who Kobe Bryant played for, had just lost the NBA championship like a few days earlier. Chris Bosh wanted to show his alpha male side. That's my interpretation of it. Wanted to show his alpha male side. So he was going to get down to breakfast and be the first person at breakfast. Breakfast opened up at 8 o'clock. So he got there early, 15 minutes early before 8 o'clock. And there sitting at the breakfast table was Kobe Bryant. He had 2 ice packs on his knees. And he was drenched in sweat. Now, Chris Bosh all of a sudden said to himself, not only did this gentleman beat me to breakfast, he's already worked out. he has gotten his world already going. And this is just like 10 days after losing the NBA championship. And this man is that committed. Why do I tell that story? We have people that will be that way. Kobe Bryant did not own the Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant was an employee of the Los Angeles Lakers, a leader on the team, yet an employee of the Los Angeles Lakers. How do we create an environment where our team wants to be that, wants to be those individuals that build that? That's kind of what leadership is, isn't it? Creating that environment where people want to achieve, and you have a team that will, run through the wall for you. I've seen that many a times in companies where it doesn't matter what the role is or what the pay scale is or what the responsibilities are. The environment is created that you just want to do whatever you can do to be there. So I just want you to give a little thought to that. Now, Elon Musk tells a story about be careful of wishful thinking. We wish for something to be a certain way, and we ignore the reality of the situation. We want things to be true, and we ignore the reality of the facts. To me, what does that mean? Okay, let me say that again. Be careful of wishful thinking. We wish for something to be a certain way, and we ignore the reality of the situation. We want it to be true, and we ignore the reality of the facts. Sometimes we try to impart onto other people what our world is, and we never take the time to understand what their world is, what makes them tick. We think that people tick only because of the way we tick, and we're successful, we're this, that means somebody else must be that way. Yet in reality, you have got to find out what is driving that other person. And you just can't sit down and say, hey, Tommy, what's driving you? No, that's not the way it happens. You've got to really get involved. We call that an interview, not interview, but an interview. It's after you've really got to know, or the person is onboarded into your team, you have a conversation about what are their values, what are the things that drive them, what are the things they like to do outside of the office and outside of work, what are their passions, what are their connections to the world, what are the types of things that make them, that motivate them, what is their vision of what their role is in our company, and find out all of those things, and then you'll be able to build something so you won't be sitting there with wishful thinking. Man, I wish that person was this. My first thing that I always ask people when they say, well, this person's not doing their job, I'm like, who hired them? I did. Well, okay, so what's the challenge? Go look in the mirror. One of the things that we try to teach in the Dale Carnegie class is uncomfortable conversations. There's nothing that happens inside our comfort zone that is growth. Really. You got to get people outside of their comfort zones. And sometimes we have to have uncomfortable conversations. And the goal is to become comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations. And how do we do that? Well, one of the ways is you start it. You set the tone. You can't be emotional. You've got to leave the emotion out of it, the anger or the or whatever it is. If it's anger or if it's contempt, whatever, we've got to leave that out of the world, and then build that environment where people really want to communicate and really stretch themselves. And that's what it's about, becoming comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. And that's a big thing. And never blame anyone in life. I look at it this way. The good people bring you happiness. The worst people bring you lessons. And the best people give you memories. Life's a process. Leadership is a process, and we're living it every single day. And that is how we get through, Hey, they say relationships are tough. They're only tough when one person's working on it, They're not that tough when two people are working on it. Think about moving a couch, a big, heavy leather couch, like a 4-person couch. 2 people can move it pretty easy. 1 person, it's kind of difficult. You're going to scratch the floor, you're going to do something, or if there's carpeting and it's not going to move, and you can't lift it by yourself because you're going to hurt yourself. Same concept in business. When you're working with other people, a rising tide lifts all boats. Work together. Relationships are tough. They're only tough if one person is working at it. And many times I see only the employee working at it. The leader is not. And we think because of society that the leader is always right. No, they're not. So my encouragement to you is to make sure that you find the time to grow yourself as a leader. And like Soly said, create that environment where people are empowered, engaged, are open, are enthusiastic, really want to be a part of the team. And when you do that, you'll get incredible people like her who has an incredible background and a great education, who will say to you on public forum, hey, I hope I get to spend my entire career with this company. Eric Worthman, that's great leadership, my friend, to create that environment when those people want to do that. And I really appreciate that. Evan, I don't know, how many shows have we had now? This is 14? I appreciate it. And we've got some great shows coming up. I have a young entrepreneur, Abby Rocco, coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got some people from the University of Florida and some other areas coming up on our agenda. So please stay tuned. We're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill inside the Coach's Podcast Room here at Celebration Point. Thank you, Evan, very much for being part of this. And this is MotivationU the Podcast.